Find out what's going on. Get involved. Change things from the inside. Make a difference. Take pride. Multicultural at its best. The Luisa Marshall Show. Coming up.
Today, all news simply the best. On Spotlight is a beloved Honorary Filipino, Canada's Member of Parliament, Don Davies.
Terrorism is a serious issue that I think all parties in Parliament believe needs to be addressed in a significant manner. I'm called an Honorary Filipino. I eat a lot of pancit and lechon, and I'm on Manila time. I'm always about 5 minutes late. So,
Don Davies is twice elected as Member of Parliament for Vancouver Kingsway. He serves many posts and has served as an official opposition critic for citizenship and immigration. He's active in many community groups and engaged the community in many policies. Today, Don talks about his sentiments on the Temporary Foreign Workers Policy, the Anti-Terrorism Bill C-51, and much more.
The first time, or someone who's been trying to adopt a child has got the child here and they come into our office and...
All these coming up. Hello. Welcome back and happy Monday. We have another very special show for all of you. Finally on Simply the Best, one of the most beloved. Vancouver Kingsway Member of Parliament, Don Davies. Please watch. Don!
Luisa!
Finally! How are you?
I'm fabulous. How are you?
Oh, shall I tell you the truth? I feel awesome, and I just need a little bit more rest, and I'll be much better.
I'm with you on that. Yeah. Well,
you too. You've been so busy.
I'm almost as busy as Luisa Marshall. That's what I tell people. Almost as busy as that.
I don't think so.
Yeah, that's
You're
right.
going to be really busy the coming months, right?
It looks that way.
And it's the thing is, you've been busy, and you're so active on Facebook.
Well, you know, they say that the election starts the day after the last election, and that's how it feels for me. I have a very active, vibrant community in Vancouver Kingsway, culturally, socially, politically, and so they keep me hopping.
Yeah. So what's the best part of being an MP?
You know, it's the people. It's the people. You know, we get to talk about politics and policies and issues, and those are very interesting if you like politics like I do, but really I think the special moments come when you're interacting with people, and in that I would say it's specifically helping people. You know, I can't tell you what it feels like when you see, say, a mother and her mother reunite for the first time, or someone who's been trying to adopt a child has got the child here and they come into our office, and it's those moments when you really feel like you've accomplished something, and I would say those are the most meaningful.
Wow. You help a lot of people, I heard.
Well, we just did our...
They spoke highly of you.
Thank you. Well, we just tabulated our statistics for the last year, and we handled 3,126 cases last year. That's it, just in the year 2014. And those are mixtures of mostly immigration, but Canada Pension Plan, income tax, student loan problems, and other such issues. And that's really what MPs spend most of their time doing. You know, it's not the politics in the newspapers, the interviews like this. It's helping people with their federal issues, and as a lawyer, I get involved in a lot of those cases, and that's really what I spend a lot of my time doing.
No, that's amazing, Don. That's amazing. You are so active on Facebook, and I read some of your rants. Okay, let's correct that. Concerns.
Yeah.
Okay, about the Harper's anti-terrorism law. So you oppose that. What is wrong with the law they proposed?
Well, first of all, I think I'll start with what I think everybody agrees on, and that's that terrorism is a serious issue that I think all parties in Parliament believe needs to be addressed in a significant manner. I guess where we depart is is what is the appropriate response? Now, Bill C-51 was tabled by Mr. Harper about a month ago, and what we feel is that it doesn't strike that very delicate balance between respecting people's civil liberties and human rights and the need to give our police forces the powers they need to adequately deal with terror. For instance, we think the Bill C-51 is too broad, so it threatens criminalizing regular political dissent. We think that it is so broad that it would capture people expressing normal political opinions that really are the fabric of democracy in Canada and one of the reasons people like our country so much. We also think that there's no adequate oversight, so it gives a lot of powers to CSIS and the RCMP to do things behind the scenes that Canadians are never going to see without the kind of oversight that we think is important in a democracy to make sure that the police forces are exercising their significant powers in accordance with the Constitution and the law.
Well, we both know that Canada is facing this big threat. Something has to be done and done fast. So, what do you think should be done, in your own opinion?
In my own opinion? Well, I think that we need to put resources directed right at the beginning, which is at the radicalization of young people. Rather than give police more powers to sort of try to break up plots or conspiracies once people have been radicalized, I think that a lot of the experts in this area that I've been reading and talking to tell me that the most successful countries are ones where they're engaging, in this case, the Muslim community, engaging youth at a very young age and working with the mosques and the cultural and social leaders in the Islamic community to prevent the radicalization of these young people to begin with. And I would like to see more resources put into that area, and I think we'd probably have more productive results as a result. One of the criticisms of C-51 is that by giving the police more powers to crack down on this, on some of the radical Islamic messaging, ironically, it'll drive it underground. And if it drives it underground, it makes it harder to actually get at those youth and deal with them. So this is where I think if we don't tread carefully, what we think we're doing is positive, but we may end up making the problem worse. So that's where I think resources targeted at preventing the problem in the first place is where I'd like to see more focus.
So prevention.
Yes.
Prevention is way better.
Yes, and I'll tell you something else. There's already 14 anti-terror charges in the criminal code that I think are working quite well. You know, the RCMP have already broken up a number of these plots at an early stage. The young couple who was plotting to put a bomb at the BC legislature in Victoria.
Yes.
There's another group about a couple of weeks ago who were plotting to blow up a train. And in both cases, the RCMP had identified it, infiltrated it, had undercover police, and broke it up before anything happened. So I think that our laws are working quite well, but there's this phrase, is it Benjamin Franklin, who said that those that would give up liberty for security deserve neither. And I think there's some wisdom in that.
Recently, you raised concerns of the patients and staff of Mount St. Joseph Hospital. They were refused 24 million funding to build or renovate a new emergency room. I understand the frustration, I really do. I live in East Van, and I always go there for my checkups.
Me too.
And, yeah, you too? Okay, I always go there, and so I'm just wondering, in your honest opinion, what do we have to do as a community? Because I belong in that community, to have a strong voice. To have a strong voice for both the feds and the BC provincial government to take care of these problems.
Well, you're dead on, Luisa, that healthcare requires cooperation between the provincial and the federal governments. So we always need to engage both those governments. Let me tell you how this came to pass. About 2 weeks ago, I had an email from an emergency room doctor at St. Joseph's Emergency Department who called me and said, I have to come down and take a look at this. So I went down there about a week and a half ago and I toured the facility, and they showed me an emergency department that was built to handle 14,000 visits a year. They're now handling 28,000 visits a year. There's 3 patients in rooms built for 1. They're treating patients in hallways and alcoves. There's no isolation room, which presents a difficulty for infectious diseases. Now, healthcare is, I think, a very important priority of Canadians. We're very proud, I think all of us, of our public healthcare system, and many Filipinos and Filipinas work in the healthcare system and are very proud of their contribution and are very major parts of why our system works. But emergency departments are a critical component. This is the entry point for people into the healthcare system. People with heart attacks, people with strokes, people that are accident victims end up at their first contact in an emergency department and life and death. So after touring this facility, I was told that they asked for $24 million from the provincial government to build a new emergency department. And here's the thing, as you just pointed out, St. Joseph's is the only hospital serving the east side of Vancouver. Because of their low budget, they have to close at 8 p.m. at night. So that means after 8 o'clock at night, people who live in the east side of Vancouver have to either go to Burnaby or the west side of Vancouver for their emergency needs. And that puts them at unnecessary risk. So I raised this issue in the House of Commons, and what I called for was the 2 levels of government to work together to address this problem, and let's make sure we have well-staffed, safe emergency departments for Canadians. That's my goal.
Okay, temporary foreign worker policy. What is going on?
Well, there's really 2 components of that I'd like to address. One is TFWs generally. I've always been of the opinion, and my party has, that we want an immigration system, Luisa, where people who come to Canada, if they're good enough to work here, they're good enough to live here and become citizens. And a very small component of TFWs has always been there, say for entertainers, right? They're actually considered part of the TFW program. Agricultural workers has long been an established part of it. But what's happened over the last, say, 15 years is that Canada's immigration system has relied increasingly on hundreds of thousands of temporary foreign workers to come to Canada to do work that really domestic Canadians could and should be doing. And then these TFWs are subject to exploitation. They don't have any real ability to become citizens. We kind of exploit them, we use them, and then we send them back to their countries. And we think that's wrong.
How long do they have to stay?
4 years.
They are allowed to stay for 4 years, and then they have to go back?
Yes. Yeah. And
that's the new policy right now.
That's a new policy, yes. I mean, there have been some reforms made to the system, some of which have done a little bit, I think, of good to the system, but generally the problem remains. And, I just think that many employers are taking advantage of that program to bring in cheap sources of labor because they don't want to raise their wages and conditions here to attract Canadians to work there. And I think that's not what this program is intended for. The other component I wanted to talk about was the live-in caregivers, which is a part of the temporary foreign worker program. It's a special part. And I, in 7 years of being an MP, if I could change one thing, if I could be Minister of Immigration for a day, I would make changes to the LIC program. Caregivers should be able to get permanent residency the second they step off the plane when they come here. They should be able to bring their spouses and children with them, and they should be given work permits to keep their families intact. Number 3, there should be one medical examination done only of the caregiver and their family, and that should be before they come to Canada and invest years of their lives before they find out that someone in their family may fail the medical, and then they can't come. And I think they should be able to live outside the employer's home if they wish and live with their own families. It's heartbreaking to me to expect caregivers, 95% are women, 80% of those are Filipinas, who come to Canada. Many leave their spouses and children at home to look after Canadians' children. And the trauma to their families of separation, of averaging 5 to 7 years, is simply unjustifiable. And there's no policy reason. Do you know that at the upper level, if you're an executive coming here under the TFW program, you can bring your spouse and children with you? But the caregivers cannot.
I heard about that. A lot of caregivers are really heartbroken.
They are, and families break up, and children are traumatized, and there's no policy reason for that. So those are the reforms that I think are needed right away for that program.
Now, some people are criticizing the temporary foreign workers because they said, well, you're here only temporarily. That's why it's temporary foreign workers. But of course, we want to make sure that they're not being exploited, just like what you said. If these foreign workers are here in Canada working for 4 years, is there government follow-ups? Because there's so many screw-ups. You know, the temporary foreign worker Filipino couple, they were facing deportation. There's not much voice coming from these temporary foreign workers. Who's supposed to look after them? They're scared.
Can be,
They don't
yes.
want to go home. You know, they're scared of these employers. So what do we do to
Well, I think
keep track of everything?
Yeah, that's a great question, Luisa. I think ultimately it's probably a shared responsibility. I think every actor in the whole chain has some responsibility for the integrity of the program. But I would say fundamentally it is the obligation of government, of the federal government in particular, and the provincial government to be monitoring these situations. Why? Because the employers, everything works fine as long as everybody's acting responsibly and with integrity. But if you're an employer that is, working, paying the temporary foreign workers less than you promised them, or you're making them work unpaid overtime, it's unlikely that employer is going to complain to anybody. The workers, of course, for their part, are vulnerable. Yeah. They come here with a single work permit for a specific employer, and they're tied to that employer. So it's unlikely that they will voluntarily bring concerns to the government. So that's why if you don't have a robust inspection program, I say by the federal government, because it's a federal government program, then you're less likely to catch those bad apples that are spoiling the program for everybody. And again, I know that there are a lot of success stories. I think there are happy TFWs and there's happy employers that exist, so we shouldn't stay in the whole program. But the fundamental point is, just about every TFW I've spoken to, when they come here to Canada, they're coming with a long-term desire to stay in Canada.
Yes.
And that's why I think there should be at least a path to permanent residency for every temporary foreign worker who wants to be here. Again, if they're good enough to work here, they're good enough to stay here.
Is that ideal?
I think so. I mean, it's how basically all of our parents and parents and grandparents came here. We were all immigrants at one point.
I was a temporary foreign worker.
My mother's parents came here as farmers from Hungary in the 1920s. They didn't come as temporary agricultural workers. They came here and did back-breaking work, clearing land in the Alberta-Saskatchewan border where it was freezing by hand. They did that for 2 years. My grandfather lived in a sod hut that he dug out of the side of a hill for 2 winters. So all of us have done this, and I think Canada's always been a welcoming place for immigrants, and I would like to see our immigration system put back towards a citizenship track system, not one that uses people like temporary pieces of a machine to be used and discarded when they are not needed.
We'll be back for more Don Davies. Don't go away. This is a very interesting topic right now. Filipinos and politics. So what do you think of quite a few Filipinos right now are being active in politics?
I think it's great. We're a multicultural country, and we all, I think we all come together as Canadians, but we retain our heritage and our pride of tradition, and I think that's wonderful. I know that Mabel Elmore is a good friend of mine, and she is the first Filipina elected to the legislature, and the community's been very proud of her. And I'm called an honorary Filipino. I always say because
you're almost Filipino. Every time I go to the Filipino events, you're there.
Well, I always say it's because I'm short. I eat a lot of pancit and lechon, and I'm on Manila time. I'm always about 5 minutes late, so
you like lechon?
I qualify. Yes, too much so.
Oh my! So, the Filipinos love you.
Thank you.
Especially in your community, and they talk highly of you, and you have lots of Filipino supporters.
I love what I do. I've completed 2 terms. We're the official opposition of Canada, and I think this year in 2015 we have a chance to maybe form government, maybe in partnership. I think it's going to be a minority parliament. So I think the opportunity to serve people is a real privilege, and I feel really lucky and fortunate to be a servant of people. Again, I'm a lawyer, so I'm used to sort of handling people's problems, and I really enjoy doing that. And if I'm lucky enough to earn the support of my constituency again, I'll continue to work hard, and in particular for the Filipino community as well, who I have a special place in my heart for.
When is the election, by the way?
It's supposed to be October 19th.
October 19th.
Yes, it's set by legislation, but there's a loophole in the law that allows the Prime Minister to call it earlier if he wants to. So some people think that it could be called as early as the spring.
This is going to be
Politics,
exciting.
yeah.
It's politics. Yeah, so
It's like show business. It's no 100%. Yeah.
this coming election, you are going to race against a Filipino candidate. So I was told. Francisco Jojo Kimpo.
You know, I support a lot of events in the community that
Events, yes.
I think Mr. Kimpo and others have taken part in. You know, there's been some festivals in the summer that I think he's been involved in, along with a lot of other people that I've supported.
So how do you feel about that?
Well, you know, I have a long-standing policy of not commenting on my political opponents or talking about them personally. I prefer to focus on my own party, my own politics, my own policies. I get in enough trouble, you know, focusing on my own. But in terms of the Filipino community, as I said, I have a special place in my heart for the Filipino community. I have worked closely with a lot of Filipino friends and supporters and people in the community over the last 7 years to sort of understand their issues and reflect their aspirations, and I'll continue to do so, and I feel very fortunate to have had their support. In terms of the Filipino community, I've always been an adherent of Martin Luther King, who said that he yearned for the day when people were not judged by the color of their skin, but were judged by the content of their character. And it's been my judgment in politics that people don't vote based on their ethnic origins. I think people are the same, and we're equal, and we all vote the way we all vote, which is we vote on the candidate that has the most experience, who has the most skills. We vote on the party's policies. We vote on the politics of the moment. We vote based on who the leader is. And it doesn't matter if you're Chinese, Vietnamese, Filipino, German, Yugoslavian. People are people, and that's how they vote. And I think that it's the same in the Filipino community. So I don't know that it matters at all what the particular ethnicity of any candidate is. What's going to matter is people in the Filipino community are going to make their decision, like everybody makes their decision from every community, which is based on the candidate and their policies they're offering. Where I'll sort of finish is, in my judgment, some of the policies that I think will favor us and that Mr. Kimpo will have problems with are the conservative policies have generally tended to favor the rich, not the poor. They've tended to hurt labor unions and workers. There's been corruption. I think, you know, whether it's robocalls or certain candidates that have had trouble with cheating elections, and that's an issue that I know Filipinos are particularly sensitive to because of their experience with corruption in Filipino politics.
Oh, yeah.
And so those are issues that I think resonate with the community, and I think those are the issues that'll matter to people when it comes to casting a ballot. So I'm going to work very hard to continue to try to earn the trust of the Filipino community and work hard to do so.
More power to you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
More power to you.
And good luck to you.
Thank you so
on the
much,
next
Luisa.
election.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
The Luisa Marshall Band is excited and ready to rock Kennedy Sports Pub in Delta on Saturday, May 9th. Showtime at 9 p.m. This summer, fall in love all over again. Jose Marie Chan, A Love to Last a Lifetime. At the Massey Theater, Saturday, June 20th. Showtime at 7 p.m. Tickets available at masseytheater.com or call 778-387-1575. The flag carrier of the Philippines, Philippine Airlines, is now flying to the Big Apple, New York City, which started this month, March 15th. This is awesome. Thanks to Don Davies. Thank you for watching, everybody. Please don't drink and drive. Don't text and drive. Always be kind. Let's stop cyberbullying. See you next Monday. Bye-bye.